This is Urmay. Today we will be looking at Kerbal Space Program. Now, the thing that we have been doing is actually playing around with this for a while. Well, I've been playing around with this for a while, and I've seen people actually play with this too. And I have seen the spaceplane hangar used. I've seen the vehicle assembly building used. I've also seen the tracking station used. The spaceplane is like what they would use with the shuttles in order to launch and land most of the, uh, well, I guess you could really say it's an advanced part of aeronautics, I think it's called, or something along the lines. Anyways, it's basically where you can launch spaceships off of a runway. Pretty cool. Okay. NASA, you really need to start working on this stuff. I know you're trying to research into it, but you need to start working a little faster, especially if video games beat you to it. Vehicle assembly is where you actually build your space. Ship, shuttle, capsules, landers, rovers, etc., etc. Basically, it's for anything and everything other than airplanes. The next one is the tracking station, which will track any ongoing launches that you have at the time. Anyways, we're not interested in the tracking station or the space hangar. Today, we are building a rocket to get out to the stars. The first thing you come into is what looks like a hangar with the launch pad in the back and basically a bunch of Kerbals running around. That's right, these little green guys are actually called Kerbals. And we're on their homeworld. We're trying to reach the stars. So, what do we want to do? You know what I'd like to do is actually just get into space. You have your choice of 10. Let's see, 3, 6, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 types of cockpits or shuttle noses. You have the Mk1 Cockpit, the Mk2, the Mk3, the Mk1 2 Command Pod, the Command Pod Mk1, which was one of the original ones that was used through NASA, I believe, and most other space programs. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Then, of course, you have the Lander Can, which is used for landers. You have the Probonity B QBE, if I said that right. The OKTO, the OKTO2, and the Sputnik Mk2. Actually, that one kind of sounds like the real spaceship that reached into orbit for the Russians, I believe, the Sputnik version 1, I think it was called. I'm not 100% sure because I do not keep track of space stations and space and stuff like that. This is the Mk1 cockpit. It actually looks like a normal space fighter cockpit if you've ever played any sci-fi games. And what we're going to do is first grab parachutes, and we're going to want to slap these babies on so we have something to land with so we don't plummet our guys to death. Another thing is you have modes over here. It's called symmetry mode. You can go 2, 3, 4, I believe that's 6, and then 8, and then 1. Honestly, most of the stuff that you're going to be building, you're only going to need 1. The parachutes, I want 2 because I want the cockpit facing up when it lands and not cockpit down, or glass down. The next thing you're going to need is controls. Advanced SAS actually helps you get out of orbit a lot faster and a lot easier than what most people actually think. There is a regular SAS model, which basically is a stability augmentation system, which will automatically keep you from spinning, keep you from rolling, keep you from diving, keep you, straight up. The next thing you'll need is in structural, you will need a decoupler. We will take the TR18A stack decoupler and slap it on the back of there. Alright, that's the main part of our ship done. Now, what else do we need? We need fuel. Let's go grab a fuel tank. Let's see. The FLT 800 will actually get us out there without a problem. So we are going to take this one and slap it on there. Now, you could slap an engine on this and call it good. I'd like to take a step farther. What I'm going to do is actually increase our chance of actually getting out into space and probably killing our guys at that. But what is the space program without its umps and fails? We're going to grab the TT70 radial decoupler. I'm sorry, it's radial, not radial. Radial. And then we're going to go back over and grab another FLT 800 fuel tank and just align that pretty good and slap it on there. Now a lot of people's probably thinking, oh, well, that'll be good. Well, we're going to take another FLT 800 and slap it on the back of that. Oh, I know. A lot of people sitting there going, oh, well, he's just going to go out there and come right back. Well, we're going to slap liquid fuel engines on here, and we're going to leave that center one open. Why? You'll see in a second. What we're going to do is take a fuel line, and since we're still on still with symmetry, it'll run 2 fuel lines, and then we right click and drag around, and boom, we have a symmetrical fuel line. The next thing you want, since this is a rocket with rocket engines strapped onto the back of this, you do want some structural holding. So what you're going to need is some EA strut connectors. And then we'll just take and do this the easy way. We'll go to the bottom of the ship, place those, and then drag them straight down. If you do not have a proper connection, this will break and it will basically set the ending point on top of the starting point, and you will have to try again. The next thing you want, since you don't want your cockpit rocking while you're actually launching into space, you want to take some, place them on the top, spin this around since we are trying to be symmetrical, and slap them right there. Now the other thing is once these are decoupled right here, it will release the tanks, it'll release from this middle tank and keep the rocket going. But since we're only having 2 engines, we want to keep those on as long as possible until re-entry. So we are going to take this and click on it and slide that up, and now it's 0, 1, 2. The next thing we want to do, if we're trying a little harder to get into outer space, all we'd have to do is strap on another tank, maybe, and structurally support that, and then off we go. Let's have a little catchy name for this. How about USG's first attempt. That one work? I hope everybody's happy with it. And we're going to actually save it since I've been having some issues with everything else. Oh, another thing. We want aerodynamics on this thing. So we'll come get an aerodynamic nose cone, slap it on the top. The next thing is we do want this in 4s. They are called the AVR8 winglets. And we can slap those right there, or we can do this and this to construct a perfectly symmetrical rocket. Now the problem is I got these just a little too high, so we'll drop them down until right there, and then we'll save it again. And we will see you guys out on the launch pad. Just give me a minute. Now, as you can tell, things are a little different. Not really, because you don't see the command tower, and of course you now see Jebediah down at the bottom screaming into a camera in fear of dying in this. Now, as you see, it's just a normal, typical launch pad. It's got the rockets sitting on top of it and everything else. There's the bay that we just built in. There's the spaceplane hangar, and there's the tracker. So, what do we want to do? Well, first things first. We do have an SAS, so let's use our stability system. And as you can see, the winglets start moving to keep our roll and our yaw and our pitch normal. The next thing we're going to do is throttle all the way up to 100 with shift, and then we hit spacebar to launch. Simple. Jebediah is starting to look happy, and everything else. Now the next thing we want to do is actually hit our external map and open our nav ball and zoom in just slightly because we do want to see where our path is. And as you can see, we are actually gaining altitude. Now the next thing you want to do is at a certain height, let's check the fuel. That one's almost gone. These will start going, and then at a certain height we are going to turn our stabilizer off, and there goes our first tank that is now empty. And then we'll turn off our stabilizers and start tilting to the proper conditions. Now remember, the higher your surface meters a second is, the worse off it is. So we do want to keep it at least a little under 200, so we're not pushing too hard on the atmosphere. So we're going to drop it down, but we do still want to see an incline in it just a little bit, but we don't want to see it too much. So we're going to play with the throttle a bit and watch our meters as we climb. The next thing we're going to want to do is get ready for a tilt to 45 degrees, and then we will burn away as much as possible. At 10,000 meters, we will do that initial move to start inclining into the air. So right now we can speed it up just a little bit. We'll do time warps 2 so we can actually get moving just a little bit. We'll do 3. And right there we'll turn it off and we'll lean it. With the D key, we do want to keep it semi-on course, which now it's not wanting to stay on course. And as soon as we are at our correct latitude or directional point, we will toggle SAS back on and increase our thrust, and voila. Now we'll come out here and watch. Ooh, we're climbing. Did sound like we had a problem. But of course, Jeb over there actually looks still extremely happy, so I'm not going to worry about it yet. And as you can see, our height is actually climbing. Now the next thing we want to do is, no, not our RCS. The ship does not have RCS. And we're going to stop from rolling first. And once that's corrected. Right there is good. And as you can see, we have left Earth and are now traveling into the vast unknown void of space. Now, at this point, we could kill our engines and set up a maneuver to set up an orbit and all of that, but we don't want to because we're just burning to get out here. The thing we really want to do is actually turn this off right now and see if we can get aligned with our Apos. Which is actually turning out to be a lot harder than I thought it would be. And we do want this semi-aligned, and we'll turn this back on. We will dump the rest of our fuel, which should only last a couple minutes longer. And once that happens, we will kill it, because we do want to keep some for re-entry. And we will turn off SAS so I can have control of the ship. And now we're going to look for the opposite to lower our trajectory. And it's right there, the reticule. And we're going past it. Why we're going past it is because we're basically out of control at the moment. If we hit this and then kind of flashed every once in a while, just to get us back onto course where we need to be. Now what we could do is actually a radical burn, which is what most people would call it, but I'd call it a suicidal burn, which would be straight down into the earth. And that's kind of an insane move to do. Cheb is loving the idea of actually getting back down, and what we're going to do is find that sweet spot that I've been trying to get to, because we're kind of coming in a little hot, and what we want to do is line it up with those markings right in the center. If we can do that, I do have the SAS on, so it's trying to level that out, and then what we want to do is do a burn towards it, and we will use up the rest of our fuel doing this. Of course, Jeb looks very, very happy. Jeb is the first one to actually go into space for this program. So now what you see is I have ditched the main part of our rocket over here and have now basically tossed the capsule into space. Now if we had some sort of RCS on this, we could actually control it a little bit better, but what we're going to do is point poor Jeb's getting tossed around in there. We are going to want to get this to point almost vertical, but first we want to do this. Isn't that beautiful? The Earth is down there. We're coming in sideways. Our orbital velocity is way too high. But we can look up, and there it is. Everything out there. Now, this might be a big thing for a lot of people. A lot of people's probably sitting there going, "Oh my God, that's beautiful." Well, guess what? Yes, it is pretty beautiful. The thing is you have to pay attention to what we're doing. Um, well, technically, I have to pay attention to what I'm doing. So we're gonna come out of that look and see what is going on. We're going to move around and see exactly where we are. Now the thing is we are just hitting the peak point of our travel, and that means we will be coming down in a few minutes. So we're just going to, nope, kill that, and we're going to speed up just a little bit. Now as you see the Earth turning, you start seeing us start coming down, and we're coming down pretty good. Now the other thing is we want to point the nose of the plane away from the Earth, and so you wouldn't actually burn up as you're coming in, and our trajectory should be somewhere right there. You see that? Let's turn that off so it will stop trying to go back. Now the other thing is a lot of people say, oh well, you're supposed to also make a turn and burn and start spinning. This is not good. When you're sitting there spinning, look at your nav ball. You can't control anything. So how do you get out of a spin? Most of the time you'd have to use the RCS to actually break the spin and use the SAS to realign you out of your spin. So basically it's a very, very bad idea to start spinning your rocket. Even though you see the normal astronauts do it and everything else, it is a horrible, horrible, horrible idea to do that. Now, as you can see, we're starting to rip through the atmosphere coming back down. Well, not even just yet. We're going to be actually coming on the morning side of the world. So we can speed this up a little bit more. Drop it just a little bit. Now the next thing is we have another deployment of some kind. We will be using chutes. We're going to speed this up until we are getting close to the atmosphere. As you guys can tell, we are now in the atmosphere, at least in the first part. And the first thing that we want to do is actually stay exactly like this. And then we can speed up through our entry. Now as you can see, we're actually getting some heat on the bottom of the crew cab. And what you see is actually us entering the atmosphere. Now technically, if if this was reality, this is exactly how a ship should be coming down, because you want to hit it with the heat shields on the bottom. Now the next thing I'm going to do is actually get ready to deploy the chutes, which I'm going to turn just slightly. And 3, 2, 1, deploy. And what those will do is knock our G-force straight up, but it will also start slowing us down for our descent to Earth. And as you can see, we're actually going to land in a nice green area, probably somewhere near the coastline. The other thing we want to do is try to get our ass end pointed at the ground so we don't cause a lot of drag. And I don't know what that black stuff was, but it must have been a glitch of the game. And as you can see, Jeb is very happy. We're looking at the moon. He looks ecstatic and everything looks good. We have nearly survived a launch into space. And we should be touching down in a few minutes, so we can speed up. Looks like we are going to land right on a beach. So we'll slow it back down because the chutes will rip off if we're in physical overdrive. And there they are. Chutes deployed. Speed up so we can hit the ground. And so Jeb can actually get out and stretch his legs and roam around and see his newfound area. Alright. Now as you see, this only took about 12 hours in game time to do. A lot of other missions and stuff like that will take upwards to maybe 90 to even months to years to possibly decades. It's nameless as to what you can pull off in this game, and it is very, very, very fun and very interesting for a simulation of rocket ships. And we're going to slow down so we're not going to manually crash, and we will touch down in a few seconds. But like I said, this is a load of fun. Kerbal Space Program is actually worth a buy if you get the time and if you get the money. And if you even want to show off your flight controls in a spaceship. You know, maybe you want to impress your boss. Show him that you can do it. It is something that's actually worth the time and effort if you want to have fun with yourself. Downfall is single player, no multiplayer. There is updates on a regular basis, it seems. Right now they're up to 0.19.1.3, I think, or something like that. Anyways, it's one of the latest updates, and I gotta say the stuff that they added, more planets, more moons, more parts, more basically everything is perfectly good. And from what I've heard through the community is there is a possibility that more expansion can come from other things, such as it could possibly expand to a universal type thing. And we're actually going to land. And he didn't explode, people. He's alright. We're going to actually knock him out. And no, we aren't going to release him from his pod so he can go walk around. I thought you could do that with this, but apparently you cannot. Sorry, Jeb. I guess you're stuck in there until they come with the can opener. Anyways, this has been Kerbal Space Program. You might see it more on my channel. And that is a wrap. See you later, Jeb. See you guys in YouTube land.